Welcome to the Put Up, everybody. I'm A.K.A. the Wizard, and this is where the untold stories are heard. This week, we got a guest that I've known how long, man? It's been, what, like 15 years, something like that?
Something like that, yeah. Pretty
Breaking
close.
the Undertow, my boy Trevor. How you doing, bro?
Good, man. How are you doing? I'm happy to be here. This is exciting. Yeah.
Just a moment ago, before the camera went live, we were just dying laughing. Sorry, we're just trying to...
I'm just trying to compose myself right now. I'm trying to keep it serious for the live show here.
Yeah. So, yeah, because we're in the middle of like a snowstorm right now. Both of us, like he's an hour and a half or so away from me, I think. Something like that. It'd probably be like 10 hours right now or something to drive there, right?
It would, yeah. I was out because like we're moving, so I'm out. I was out driving in the storm. I had to like rush back. Almost got in a few accidents. So, I was picking up bins and groceries, and oh yeah, you know how it
Yeah,
is.
man. So last night we went out. First time I've been out in probably like what, half a year or something. Damn. Like,
Yeah.
and we went and saw the hockey game, Canada against the USA, and 3 hockey fights in the first 10 seconds of the game.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, bro. It was
Dude,
wild. Like,
I used to play house league hockey when I was a kid, and there'd be tons of fights. You wouldn't think house league hockey would have all those fights, but there's tripping, there was like dislocated shoulders, there was all kinds of stuff, man. I used to get like smashed into the boards. Very competitive for house league hockey. So
yeah, and like you expect like an all-star game to be all prim and proper, right? They're all like the highest end players of all the different leagues of the world, right? So it's like usually this like very formal, like no hitting kind of thing, but it was like mayhem, bro. That was wild.
and it was the Canada US game, right?
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, there's tension, right?
I guess there's a little bit of contentiousness right now between Canada and the US, but yeah, there you go, man.
Yeah, so it was a good time, man. But yeah, we're gonna jump into the interview. Let's get
Sounds
to it,
good.
bro, because we
Let's
got a
do
lot
it.
to cover. I forgot until like you showed me that like a little bit ago, but that song that we made like 15 years ago,
Yeah,
stuff like that,
so
right?
so like a long time ago, probably in 2010, I wrote this song called Nothing to Say, and I played it in a couple different bands that I was in at the time because I grew up in Dundas, Ontario, if anyone knows where that is, Hamilton area. And I played in a couple bands. We played this song, and it never really like all those bands that just ended up breaking up. So when I met you in music industry arts in London, that's when we
Which was
met
like
in
2 years later, I think, or so, right? Like
yeah
2012 when we met, right?
2012, when that project came around where we had to record like an original song. I had this song kicking around, and my friend Strummer was like, yo dude, you got to do that song and I'll play drums on it. So he played drums on it, and then you said you would play bass on it, and then I recorded all the guitars and the vocals in my dorm room, and then I released it. So we did that in 2014. I released it in 2018, and I was like, I'm calling myself Breaking the Undertow. My wife came up with the name. She's like, call yourself Breaking the Undertow. I'm like, all right, let's release this song. And that kicked off this whole thing. And here I am, like 7 years later, still
Man,
releasing
that's a
music as
wild thing to
Breaking the
think about.
Undertow. So
Why
that's
is
how
the
it all
name Breaking
started.
the Undertow?
So at first, it was just kind of like a cool sounding name. And one of the cool like little tidbits about it is, do you know that band Rise Against?
Yeah.
So they have a song called Give It All that I really liked back in the day when I used to watch like Much Music and stuff, and I saw they're playing like on the subway and like hanging off the things and going crazy. And the first lyric in the song is break through the undertow. And I'm like, oh, it's so sick. I didn't
There it
even
is.
notice it until recently. And what it kind of represents to me is like going against the grain, pushing against the odds, kind of like you know, beating life at its own game, taking something shitty and making something awesome with it, like art, because like all my songs come from a lot of my songs come from like a place of pain. So breaking the undertow is like pushing through that and like making something cool with it. So that's what
That's
it
so
means to me.
profound. Damn. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you covered that first one, bro. Holy shit. I didn't even get back. Like, how'd you start creating music like way back before I met you and stuff like as a kid,
So
right?
yeah, so when I was a kid, like I didn't really play any musical instruments. I messed around on the piano a bit. Like we had like my grandparents' old piano. And one of the songs you're going to play today, actually, I wrote as a kid on that 100-year-old piano that
Oh
we
my
had
god.
that my grandparents owned. And then I would walk to school, and I remember just like writing these little melodies in my head and stuff, and coming up with these lyrics, and always having these kind of weird, outlandish ideas. And kids thought I was nuts. And
It's so common.
yeah,
We're just
and
seen as
then
crazy.
and then when yeah, and then when I had a friend, shout out to Luke Bentham, he's in the Dirty Nil, who
Oh yeah,
we saw together as well in
right.
MIA,
Yeah.
at the Bovine in Toronto. He's
During
like,
Music Week, right? I think when we
yeah,
got that like free pass thing for the week to go all around.
exactly.
Yeah. Yo,
Yeah,
that's
so
wild.
he was like, look at this thing that I got, and it was a Stratocaster, and I'm like, and we used to go to math tutoring together. So I go over to his house after the math tutoring, and we just mess around on his guitar, and I'm like, I got to get one of these. So I went out and got like a Strat knockoff from like PV, although PV was good brand too.
Wait, I
And
think yeah, there's
and
one back in the base.
yeah, that guitar was sweet, man. So it looked just like his Strat. It was black with the white pick guard, standard like
Yeah, like that one.
exact
Like that
that
one
one
right there.
exactly. And that's where it all started, man. And then my brother played the drums. So my brother was playing drums since he was like 5 years old. And we were like, and then my friend Nick, who lived like 5 minutes down the street, played bass. And we were like, let's do
Band.
this. So
Got a band.
we made this band called Negative Impulse in 2004, and we were together until like 2008, just like doing
Nice.
stuff in Hamilton. Yeah.
Oh, that's so dope, man. Okay, so like we're gonna get into your artistry then, like the sound that you make. What's your style or sound, and like what makes you stand out as an artist?
So when I started out in Negative Impulse, like it was like I was obviously listening to a lot of like, I don't know, like Silverstein. I was listening to like Drop Dead Gorgeous. I was listening to From First to Last, like all this kind of like screamy, angry, riffy kind of stuff, and learning about guitar riffs and stuff like that. And of course, like started out with like Blink 182 and stuff, and that's where I got sort of like the melody piece. Blink 182, Green Day, like all that kind of stuff. And so that kind of shaped this sort of, I don't know, somewhere between pop punk and sort of whatever you call like that, like post hardcore or like metalcore or whatever type of in between thing that I was doing. It was just honestly, I don't really have any use for those labels. I just call it rock. I'm just like, I make
It's
rock
just rock,
music.
yeah.
It's not really classic rock. It's more modern rock. But Negative Impulse got nominated in 2008 for Metal Recording of the Year at the Hamilton Music Awards, and I was like, "Oh, are we metal?" So I didn't get the memo. So I was
Yeah,
like,
like, I didn't know
I
we were
guess
making
we're
metal.
right. So I was like, I thought we were just making like rock music, but so that's kind of the template. And then, as you know, I kind of like wandered off into some really weird experimental territory with this thing that I did called Shavings 57,
Oh
and
yeah.
that was just like a solo project that I did for years, and super experimental. And then like whatever, just like crap loads of auto tune, and then like screaming, and then heavy, and then weird, and then
Sounds
electronic.
like almost like fuck, like Linkin Parkish or something
Hmm.
that style, right?
Yeah, like there was
Very like
sort of like a sort of a rap kind of almost new metal thing to
right.
it,
Yeah,
sort
yeah, that
of.
was wild, man. I remember that.
Yeah,
Yo, we'll
and
link
then
it below. We'll have to
yeah,
link
for
that
sure.
other stuff. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's up on Spotify still. So I did an album in 2016 as I was leaving music industry arts, and then I after that I was like, you know what, I'm kind of done with this. I want to go back to the rock roots, and that's why I pulled up Nothing to Say, and I was like, this is the template. I'm going to get back to
Yeah.
playing guitar, and I'm going to make it rock, and then whatever else it is, it can be. So like if I want to do, some like dance shit on a song, I'll do it. If I want to do some jazz thing, I'll do it. But it always comes back to like that guitar driven kind of rock. But there's no rules, man. There's no rules with Breaking the Undertow. It's just whatever the hell I want to do now, I do, you know?
Break the rules. That's
Break the
it.
rules. So, like the thing I'm working on right now, like I'm working on a song right now. We were talking about it a bit before, but it's very like, it's vibey, man. It's got like a swing feel. It's almost kind of like a little bit hip hoppy almost,
That's that
and
thing you
kind of
said about
like,
the triplets you were using, right?
yeah. So
Playing
I'm
around
using
with
a
that
lot
stuff.
of these like hi-hat triplets and stuff like that. And then it goes into like this kind of almost metal breakdown. And then it goes back to like this hip hoppy thing. And then it goes to like super like power pop at the end. So like there is no
Five
rules. No
genres in
rules.
one song kind of thing, you know?
Absolutely. That's how it's always
Ooh,
been. That's how it was with shavings. And, I kind of had to refocus myself with Breaking the Undertow, like get back to like, okay, I'm going to write with a guitar. But now that
right.
I've kind of set that foundation, I write with a guitar, I write with a piano, I write just singing stuff into my phone with my voice. I write guitar melodies with my voice. I write vocal melodies with my guitar. It's chaos,
You sitting there with a
So
phone like, no, 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 you know,
that's
like,
exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Yeah,
it's amazing.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, so like, what inspires you to like? Where do you find ideas for the actual stuff? You touched on it before about it all being like traumatic or whatever, right? But like, where do you actually draw your ideas from when you go to make a song?
So there's kind of lots of places that I draw experience from. With shavings, it was a lot more violent. I was a very angry kid
A
when
lot
I
of
was
stuff
doing that.
inside, right? Like,
Yeah, and with Breaking the Undertow, I I hesitate to say this a little bit, but maybe it's a little more mature, just a little bit more like I'm, a grown man now with a child, and like like I wrote a song for my wife years ago, Laura, called Empyrean. I wrote a song called On a Tuesday about raising a child in the pandemic. But then
oh my gosh,
I wrote this new song that is going to be coming out called Arson on Lowry Drive, and it's about you know being an angry person again. You know what I mean? So it's
it's
kind of
bad. You
it's
know?
back. It's back. So I think it's multifaceted. I listen also. I don't listen to a ton of music anymore. I listen to a ton of audiobooks and podcasts. And one of my favorite thinkers is Yuval Harari. Shout out to him because he's the man. And he's all like this guy where like everything his whole thing is everything's a story. So like money's a story, institutions are a story that we all sort of agree on, and I get a lot of my inspiration from that kind of thing because I'm a bit nihilistic in that way. Like nothing exists, everything is this kind of bleak whatever. But like create your own meaning, and so that's kind of my whole vibe is life can feel meaningless sometimes. So what I like to do is create the meaning in the music. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of my whole thing. So I think even though it's angry music sometimes, I hope that there's a hopeful message. I hope that people can see that even when I'm writing a song about it, I'm still kind of like wink wink, I'm still in on the joke a little bit. It's still funny. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does actually. I think we're actually gonna hear one of them right now. I think. Which one is it? Butterwheel, the music video.
Nice.
Yeah, so they're gonna
Sweet.
find out what it's all about in a second here. Preface the track though before we go and see it. Let the people know what it's about.
So this one is about this one. When I talk about, like singing those things into my phone, it was just a bunch of those strung together, as catchy as I could make it. And it's about OCD because I have OCD. So this one's about struggling with OCD. And
Nice.
shout out to my wife Laura because she shot the music video, and my
Oh yeah.
stepsisters are on it as well. So I want to say that. So
Nice.
Butterwheel.
All right,
Stupidest
roll it.
title, but yeah.
Always comply right to the letter. The only strike can grasp to feel better. A regretter, a trendsetter. On the back of my eyelids is the message, the directions to lead me to the wreckage. Useless appendage. I'm too invested in a count 99, 100 times addicted to a life of confines. Risk averse. This is a curse. Born in a hearse. But are we all risk averse? This is a curse. Born in a hearse. Why are we all? It's always blood, sweat, and tears just to break even. I'm tired of giving a shit. Give me a reason. It's open season. It's open season. And I count to 99, 100 times. Addicted to a life of confines. Risk averse. This is a curse. Born in a hearse. Why are we all risk averse? This is a curse. Born in a hearse. Why are we all risk averse? This is a curse. Born in a hearse. Why are we all risk averse? This is a curse. Born in a hearse. Why are we
Welcome back to the Put Up, everybody. I'm A.K.A. the Wizard, and we have Breaking the Undertow today in this hot seat with us. What you just heard right there was his track Butterwheel, or what you just saw right there, rather.
Hell
Tell us
yeah.
more about that track, bro. You had your wife was like in the track or like made the whole video, right?
Yeah, so what happened was So the song was basically, I had this idea to take a bunch of catchy parts and just make the catchiest song. Like I remember, like back in MIA, our professor Mike Roth used to talk about like the songs with like four choruses in them. I'm like, I
Right.
want to make one of those songs. So when I started, I started that, and I like just sung that into my phone, and I kept getting these things, and I'm like, oh, there's another one, there's another one. So I once I had like four of them, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make the catchiest song that I possibly can, and strung them all together. But then I was like, where do I go from here? Like once we did it twice, I was like, oh, I think I'm just gonna change the key and do this guitar solo thing from like way back in the day that I had kicking around. So I had this idea to start chanting burn, burn, burn at the end. And we were living at my dad's at the time in Brantford, and I have like five stepsisters. So my wife Laura was like, you should get all your stepsisters to chant burn on this thing instead of you doing it. And it's
Like
going
a
to sound
gang poker,
crazy.
right? Like,
That's
yeah.
exactly what it was. So Laura did one, and then like each of like I think there were maybe three or four of my stepsisters that chanted burn. And then Laura was like, I have this crazy visual idea for the music video. So just trust me on this. We went and bought a bunch of stuff from Dollarama, got my stepsisters to dress up like witches. I dressed up. She made like this whole paper mache mask. And I was like this like weirdo that lived in the forest drinking tea and stuff. And they come and kill me. They come and kill me. And then they burn my head at the end of
Yeah.
it. Yeah, but then you find out at the very end that I was gonna try and poison them. So that's what that was. So she's like, I had no idea what this was supposed to be. It was like a dead hot summer day, and I'm wearing this big like mask thing that she made, and I'm like in like the tightest like jacket like suit thing ever, and yeah, it was crazy, but it turned out so cool. She did such a good job, and it's one of my favorite songs for sure that I've
Yeah,
done.
man. And you make like these wild, like different conceptual things, like in each one that you put out, kind of thing, right? You were talking
That's
a
the
little
idea.
bit about before about how you do singles. Remember that?
Yeah.
Instead of albums, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk to
So
the people about that.
yeah, so my approach with that is it takes a long time because I'm busy with life, you know. I have a kid, I have a full-time job. Like I'm doing stuff. So I do music when I can. It's not really, it's my main focus, but it's also not my main focus. Like it must be there at some point. I must always find my way back to it, but I can always put it aside when I got to move, I got to go to work, I got to take my kid to school, like whatever it is, but then I can always come back to it, you know? And so sometimes it takes a long time, you know? And I don't put stuff out until it's perfect, until it's right, until I'm fully happy with it. I don't put out garbage that I don't believe in. So, last year, for example, I only released one song. So,
Yeah, it was just a
if
single one, I think, right?
exactly. So, for a while I was doing four a year, then it dropped down to two, then last year it was one. It would just take a really long time to make an album, and I don't want people to have to wait that long to hear my stuff. So I just
Right.
put it out when it's done. And I like the idea of having artwork for each single as well. Like each song has its own specific little thing.
An
It's got
entire
its
concept
visual.
built around it or whatever, right? That's what I've seen from you. Like that
Exactly.
mask or whatever, right? That like talk about the mask. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
bro.
So the last song I did was called Pringle Stokes. And there's Pringle Stokes was the commander of the ship called the HMS Beagle in like the 1800s, and he kills himself. He shoots himself in the head, but he lives. He lives with a bullet in his skull for a little while. Okay, so there's a bit of a nautical theme to this one because he's a sailor and stuff. So when Laura heard the song, and Laura's actually on the song too, she does like this little like monologue about a diver. So she's like, I have this idea for the artwork that you're going to be a diver with like, what's it called? Frostbite. So you got frostbite, you're all messed up, you got this diver helmet on. So I bought this anti-fatigue mat. She's like, go out to Canadian Tire and buy an anti-fatigue mat. I'm like, okay. She made a diver's helmet with it, and if you go look at the picture, it's insane. Like what she
It's
did with this,
incredible.
yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like a real helmet. And then we shot this thing, and she like did my makeup, and there's like, if you look closely, there's like ice crystals on my face, and my eyes are all messed up. I'm wearing like contacts, and yeah, man, it was just really fun. So I've kind of like, I have a team, right? So I have Laura. She helps, like she does some production on some of the songs. She's like, oh, I think you could take it in this way. She does all the visual artwork now. It's all over to her. And then my brother Spencer, or Taboo as he's known, that's his producer name.
Yeah,
He
shout out
does,
to him.
shout out to him. He's a huge part of my sound. He does all the mixing. He does a little bit of production on it, and he really like brings my ideas to life. So I'm recording everything, I'm writing everything, and then he's like really polishing it sonically. And then I want to give a shout out to my son Oliver too, because he's like the biggest. He's
Yeah.
part of my team too. He's the biggest cheerleader, and he's like, "Oh, Dad, your songs are so good. Oh, I want to hear the next one. Oh, what's this about? What's that about?" And like, um, so
It
it's
helps to have
hard.
somebody in your corner that's not just part of it all the time, that's like making it with you. You know what I mean? Somebody to cheer
Exactly.
you on when you're like having that bad day or whatever, right?
Yeah, and it's hard for me to like let people into my process because I'm very protective over my art. But now I've added a new team member, which is my buddy Rob Brown, with Rocket Launcher Records, and he's gonna be releasing all my stuff for me, like under his Rocket Launcher
Oh
umbrella.
yeah. Okay,
So
so there's like all this buzz in the music industry with DistroKid and Spotify and not getting paid properly and all this stuff. Tell us your solution.
I'm really pumped. I wish I could say I came up with this solution myself. Like my brother Taboo, he's worked with my buddy Rob Brown for years under this umbrella of Rocket Launcher Records. And so I always kind of thought, oh man, that that might be cool, but it's always been, again, like I said on the last song, I have OCD, so I'm protective over my stuff. I'm anal about it. I'm like, it's got to be done this, and this. But I'm kind of getting sick of the whole DistroKid thing. You know what I mean? It's a lot of work for me. Not that
Which a
not
lot of
that
people are.
DistroKid's yeah, and not that DistroKid's not handy, but it is a subscription. It is costing me. So Rob said to me, "Hey man, let's sit down. I have a proposition for you. Let's work together if you'd like to." He's like, "Would you like to release some songs with Rocket Launcher?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And then he said, "How about we just bring the whole catalog over?" So I'm in the process right now of bringing the whole catalog over. I've kind of cut out the whole DistroKid thing and going a different direction and releasing them under Rocket Launcher. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm just going to kind of see what that brings, because I know like Rob's also a super creative guy, and I think he's got some cool ideas. So it might be really cool. We'll see. So it's brand new right
Yeah,
now.
it's such a because like a lot of I've heard a lot. Like I follow like this Demisa guy on like Instagram, and he's talking about all this stuff all day long now. Man, it's like they're trying to find other alternative ways to get your music to DSPs.
Yeah.
Not DSPs or whatever. They're more like distro kids at DSP. It's more like get it directly to Spotify. Because I remember
Yeah.
back in the day before they had DSPs, you could sign contracts with Apple as a business and with Spotify as a business all separately and put your music up there, but you had to guarantee it was all yours and all these legalities and stuff, right? Same way that DistroKid does it, but it was
Yeah.
all just you and them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the DSP not got in the way, but became like the liaison between you and that, right? So
Yeah.
it's like now we are seeing this like shift back to that, like direct to them kind of idea. And that's what you're talking about here with the record label kind of idea is like, it's not a
Yeah.
record label, it's like a distribution deal or whatever, right? Like if you
That's
want to
exactly what it is.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so like moving on in the interview, what's been the biggest challenges you've faced so far in it?
I would say the biggest kind of challenge as an artist, it's kind of a two in one. Um, inconsistency and budget. So when I say inconsistency, there's been a lot of moving over the last few years. Like we discussed, before the show started, we lived in Nova Scotia for a little while, and it's kind of a weird thing because it's a two-sided sword, right? The inconsistency can be difficult for recording because I always feel like I'm kind of setting up these little makeshift
Like a
recording
makeshift
areas.
half-ass kind of like thing where you're like in a new spot every time kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and the vocals sound like shit, man. And like when we lived in Port Hawkesbury, Nova Scotia, and if anyone knows where that is, that's like on Cape Breton Island. It is very isolated. There's nothing going on there. And I literally recorded vocals in like a cleaning chemical closet in my dad's house. So there was really nowhere else to do it. There's no studio in Port
Right.
Hawkesbury, Nova Scotia. There's nowhere to like kind of guarantee that you're getting like kind of a tight sound. So literally in the pitch black in this closet with like Febreze and like Lysol and stuff, I'm like recording vocals in the dark. And so that song was called Chainsaw Decorum. And honestly, man, it kind of worked out because that's a really angry song about working till you're dead. It's like work till I'm dead. I fucking work till I'm dead, right? That's the kind of tagline. So for anyone out there who feels like they're just on the hamster wheel, that's the song for you. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it is really hard to be creative when you're kind of moving around, don't have like a home base. And then budget, man. Like times are tough. So, like it costs money to make music. You got to have your
Right.
gear, you got to have a studio, you got to have some soundproofing, you got to have some plugins, you got to have your Logic Pro or your Pro Tools or like whatever it is that you're
Right.
using to record
And
the
they're all
music.
subscriptions today, right? Like 90% of this stuff, you're paying like a
Yeah, man.
monthly fee to use a lot of it, right?
It's tough. So, and like with me personally, like not all the instruments are what you would call real instruments. So I do all the singing, I play all the guitars, but everything is in the box, right? So the guitar amp is not a real guitar amp. It's in the box, I'm plugging into an interface, and then my guitar amp is software. My drums, I'm creating all the drum beats myself, but they're software. I'm using sampled drums.
Right.
So it would be next to impossible without like a decent laptop, plugins, like all this stuff that you need. So budget, man, it's tough. It is really tough with inconsistency, no budget to create this stuff. It can be difficult, but that's why making art in like a grassroots way, kind of like shooting music videos with a real low budget, is fun because you end up making art in spite of it. And so I guess in a way it's a cool thing to overcome.
Well, yeah, and it's like you almost can draw more creativity out of the hard times in a way when it's like that, right? Especially for like
Absolutely.
music videos and stuff where you're just trying to like get out there and do it with like not having to rent places and cars and all kinds of like I do a lot of hip hop stuff, so it's like this totally different thing, man. There might be like $10,000 in jewelry required for you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
different things, right? So it's like trying to like figure out what are we gonna shoot, how are we gonna do it. You get twice as creative when you got no cash to try and like make it with, right?
Exactly. And like, how many times like I've had to record with like back when like my son Oliver was, 2 or 3, whatever, running around like a maniac screaming in the house. I would be recording at home and I would have to like time my takes. So I'd have my headphones on and I'm like listening, and then he'd
Like
stop
footsteps.
screaming. He'd stop screaming for a second, then I'd quickly do my vocal take, and then he'd start screaming again. So I'd have to like wait, or I'd have to be like louder than him. You know what I mean? And I've like recorded in like one time in Halifax, I didn't have anywhere to record. So there's that thing again.
Oh, nice.
I don't know what's going on. So in Halifax, I had nowhere to record, so I went to like a rehearsal space, and the guys in the next room were playing the loudest covers of Audioslave, just like cranking on Audioslave.
What?
So I had to be louder than them. You know what I mean? I had to get so close to the mic. And if you go listen to my song, Let's Get Crackin', it's got a big picture of my face on an octopus head as the artwork. That was that song. And you can't hear it, man. You can't hear Audio Slave in the background because you adapt. I have to get so loud because
That's
there's other
crazy.
stuff going on around me. So it's always chaos, man. There's always something going on. So
Okay, so on the flip side of that, what's been the biggest success you've had so far as an artist?
I guess the flip side would really be, you know, and this is where the whole breaking the undertow thing really comes in, making art against the odds, you know, like um, I, as much as it's nice to get paid or get recognition or like all this kind of stuff, really at the end of the day, I have to make music. It is what it is. And after Fanshawe, after the last Shavings 57 album I didn't make music for probably 3 years. And it was really hard, you know, and I realized this is my drug, you know, like as you know, as I'm sure you remember from college, because I'm super boring, I'm sober. I have sober tattooed
Oh
on my
yeah,
arm.
right,
So I don't drink, but I'm an alcoholic. You know, like I had a drinking problem at one point, and
right. I
so
remember.
I've got this addictive thing, you know, and when I can kind of channel it into making my music, that's when things get a little bit more healthy. And so I guess really the success portion of it for me is really finding a way to make the time, even when, you know, real life starts to happen. You grow up, you have a family, you have a spouse and a child and a real job and like all this kind of stuff. It's saying, you know what, I really got to make time to do this thing that I love. That is exciting. And the coolest part of it is that my spouse and my brother and my kid are all involved in it. It's
Right.
so cool, you know, because now it's just this big art project that we all get to make together. And that's success to me, you know, that's success in music. So
The fact that you get to put the next one out. That's it. That's what it gets to
that's
be.
it, man. That's it. And the fact that I have people in my corner going, yeah, man, go make your music. And I'm going to help you make your music, you know, it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, that's fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so you touched on it somewhat before, like with tools that you use to make the actual art. Remember when we bought our first mic together? Remember that shit?
Dude, you are so part of like you're like part of breaking the undertow in this crazy interesting way because I still use that mic.
There
That
you go.
mic,
See?
that mic that you're like, "Oh, I'll go get you you know, an Audio Technica AT4040." Hey,
Oh, yeah, I can't.
it,
I gotta bring it up to the.
that's the one. And you missed it, Chris, but like my thumbs up just popped up over my head again. I
Oh,
think
sweet.
I think it was responding to that AT4040. I think it was like, hell
That's what
yeah,
it's called.
that's
Yo,
the mic.
nice.
So that's the one you were like, oh, dude, I can, you know, I can get you this. I still don't really know where you got it. Did you get it on like the black market or something? Like, did you have to like, you know,
A place called RVAK. I don't know how I found the dude.
because
It
it
was
was
like a
cheap.
warehouse.
Yeah, it was super. Oh, what's
God,
going on here? Do you want to?
dude, like, cause the guy that I bought it from, he like was showing me like an espresso machine that he had got through like some shady ass deal where like some guy owed him money and gave him an espresso machine to pay for it or something. He's showing me like all this shit.
There we go, man. All I know is you're like, hey, I can get you this really good microphone for cheap. Give me the money and I'll get it for you. And I've never stopped using that microphone. On Breaking the Undertow, I've now recorded 16 songs. I've released 15 and I've got another one coming out. So I've done 16. On 14 of those songs, I've used that microphone.
Amazing. There you
The,
go.
the, the only time I used another one time I recorded vocals with my brother in his studio, so I used his mic. And then the other time, there was another buddy's studio in Halifax that I used. That was for Stone, which is the other
Nice.
song that you're gonna play
Yeah,
in a
we're gonna
little
hear it
bit.
in a little bit, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Nice.
exactly.
Okay.
So I used a different mic for that, but the AT4040. Oh, and on on the new song Arson on Lowry Drive, I used the AT4040 for the clean vocals, and then I actually used the 7B. It's the first time I've ever used the 7B for the screaming, and it actually turned out really cool. But
yeah, because do you remember back like when we were in school, like we'd use like an MD421 Sennheiser for screaming and shit like that, right? Because it has that like bar in the middle of the capsule or whatever.
yeah,
It actually works better than like the clean vocal mics for doing that kind of work, right?
yeah, man. Like the 7B's kind of become the standard for, like screaming, and I never used it for screaming. Like I've always used the AT4040 for screaming, but
Right, and
then
they get like almost too shrill of a top end on it or something, right?
yeah, and dude, especially like with the lows. So like on this new song, Arson on Lowry Drive, that hasn't dropped yet, will be dropping soon. I did like these low streams, like real guttural, like the almost like the Antichrist, type of stuff. And it's just it's that kind of stuff, and so the 7B worked out really well for that. But as a general rule, the AT4040 is my go-to, and anytime I'm like doing clean vocals, 100% now. It's always the 4040 for sure. Um, and then as far as like other tools, like here's the thing that I'll say about tools, right? Tools are great. Having good monitors, having a good interface, it's all good stuff. And you can get that stuff for relatively cheap now. You can get a good pair of
Right, widely
headphones.
available, everything.
Yeah, exactly. However, the tool that you need as an artist is the drive, and it's really about drive, because I have had to like sometimes it's like, all right, like when I said I'm going into that rehearsal space to do my vocals, it's costing me like $25 an hour. Again, it sounds
Right.
cheap, but it adds up for me, right? So I'm like, I have to make the most of this 3 hours, and I gotta nail this. So the tool for me is really my voice. It's something that I've had to work on over years. And when I met you, I had a cyst on my vocal cords. I had to get like
Right.
vocal surgery because my voice was all messed up. So my voice is not something that I take for granted, but everyone's like, "Oh, take care of your voice and like don't do all that screaming stuff." And I'm like, counterpoint, do it. And then when I'm on my deathbed, I'll be like, "Sweet, I used the hell out of my voice and I made some cool music with it that I love." And that's what I'm interested in. Sure, man, I'm destroying my vocal cords. I don't care. I am doing it in the name of my art.
I
So
think you answered the next one too. That's the
what's the
unique approach to how you make your art.
so
Wow.
okay.
What?
So I will add another bit of unique whatever that I
Yo,
do.
tell them
So
about the guitars too. The way that the guitars are being strung and stuff with the giant strings and all this stuff that you were using before, right?
well, yeah, like on the very first song, the Nothing to Say song, I was doing it in drop C, right? So
Right.
I was like, oh man, it's got to sound heavier or whatever. And the funny thing is, because yeah, like you said, like it was being strung with a lot thicker strings, and it was being set up in drop C, and I'm like, oh, this sounds heavy, whatever. But now I can't be bothered with that stuff because those strings hurt my fingers, and I'm just like, I can't do it. So I'm like, I'm just gonna do standard and drop D. And honestly, sounds heavy to me. I I I think I can get a pretty aggressive, like as long as you've got like an aggressive guitar tone and you're screaming your brains out, I think you can get some real visceral, and I use like shout out to the guys at Get Good Drums because they make a fantastic product.
Yeah.
I use their Invasion kit for my drum tones, and they sound crushing as well. And then I use this bass. Again, it's a sampled bass, so it's a plugin. It's called Kraken Bass, and the company is escaping me right now. Solemn Tones. Solemn Tones Kraken
I've never
Bass.
even heard of them.
Yeah, they're sick. They're sick. So they make a really good bass that I use as well. And so as long as you've got cool sounding stuff, but Yeah, you don't necessarily need to string your guitar up with heavy gauge strings and do drop C. I think you can still make aggressive music by using drop D, you know?
Well,
Um,
and I think it's a testament to like you moving through your career of music too, and the way that you've shifted your production styles and stuff as you go along, right? And
yeah,
it ends up being like almost a testament of who you are today, right? You can handle using the lighter strings and the lighter tones and still create that heavy shit. You know what I mean?
for sure. And that's the whole thing about my approach. You kind of mentioned it there, like the evolution and stuff. Like my approach is really to do something different on every song. I always kind of try so yes, it gets a little bit formulated after a while. There's like kind of a way that I like to do things, a bit of a process that I follow when I'm writing songs, when I'm recording, all this stuff. But I like to try something different every time. So if it's, like the triplet thing with like the lo-fi drums, cool. If it's the like low growling screams, cool. If it's like, like some jazz chords, cool. I always try to do something weird or
Yeah.
different or unique on every song. And I always try and give every song its unique, like, kind of fingerprint. Like, we did a cover of this Fantagram song, You Don't Get Me High Anymore, where my wife Laura sang on it. So we did
I
kind
think
of like
I saw that one. I heard that one.
yeah, so
I
that's
remember
really
seeing that
cool.
come out. Yeah.
And that is like my most streamed song ever. Like it's got the
What?
most streams of any of my songs. And
Okay.
like her vocal style is like so haunting. It's so cool. She gets like this hauntingness to her tone that I could never really achieve, it's really cool. And like when we harmonize together, it sounds awesome. And that was really cool. And weirdly, I was really worried about that song. So like when I was putting it together, I was like, oh man, this is just not doing it for me. I don't know about this. And then when she put her vocals on it, I was like, oh,
Made it all come together.
we got a thing here. Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of what I try and do. I always try and do something a little different on every song.
Nice. Okay, so we're gonna hear another song right now. Then, this one's called Stone. What did you do on this one that's different?
So this one, I had, I actually had like some feedback on this one. So I like, with guitar amp sims, it's really hard to get
It's
guitar
fake, so you don't
feedback.
have because it takes a speaker and the coil to create that real thing, right?
So yeah, there's this particular passage at the end where I'm like screaming my brains out and I'm like feedbacking the guitar and I like put all these weird noises in it. And it was really cool. It wasn't like really to the grid. It was just like a big mess before the song sort of calms down again and fades out. And so that's kind of what I did on this song. I also used a different mic on this song. And this one was tough, man. This one was like subject matter wise a very difficult and personal song for me to write. So bear that in mind. And the cool thing about this one too, I wrote the intro to this one, the keyboards, I wrote on that 100-year-old piano that belonged to my grandparents. I wrote it as a kid and then I never did anything with it. And then 2 years ago, I recorded this song and I'm like, I'm going to pull that thing out and I'm going to put it in this song. So pretty cool.
All right, well, let's hear the 100-year-old piano.
You're the stone that hangs around my neck, buried deep in over 20 years of fucking bullshit. Some things don't
Welcome back to the Put Up, everybody. I'm A.K.A. the Wizard, and we have Breaking the Undertow with us today in the hot seat. Like, share, and subscribe if you're just joining us. The song you just heard was called Stone. Say more about the track, bro. It's
Well,
crazy, eh?
so it's about a relationship with a certain person in my life. And I don't think I'm going to elaborate on that too much. It's a little dicey. But having said that, when we lived in Halifax, um, I used to go for a swim in like the Atlantic Ocean, and it is bloody cold, man. And so
Oh, yeah.
I used that sort of lonely coastal kind of theme of Cape Breton Island, Atlantic Ocean as sort of a metaphor for what I was trying to say about this particular relationship that I have in my life. And I think it turned out really cool. It's dark as shit because um, the whole idea behind the stone is you're the stone that hangs around my neck and pulls me down to the bottom of the ocean. Essentially, you're killing me. And then at the end, I say you're the noose that hangs around my neck, and so it does get a little dark. But the thing is it really helped me deal with my emotions during a very trying time in my life. And although it's a little difficult to go back and listen to it sometimes, I think it helped. I think it helped the relationship that I have with this particular person. I think it helped. I think it helped me as an artist just be true to my feelings and put my real feelings out there. And I think it's a absolutely necessary piece of the Breaking the Undertow catalog, and I'm happy I did it. So
Nice.
yeah,
All right. Well, okay. So, how do you connect with your audience and make your art relatable? Then it's pretty obvious, but
it's all about the emotion, man.
right.
I am just real. Just a real person going through real things and talking about those real things in my songs. I don't write bullshit. I don't write I'm not like trying to impress anyone. I'm literally sitting there writing my lyrics going, "Oh, yes. Yes." I'm excited about it. I can feel it viscerally. And when I'm recording it, I'm like, I'm in this. I'm feeling this. I'm vibing. I judge me all you want, world, but I listen to my own music. I like my own music. I'm a fan of
I
my
do
own
too.
stuff. And it's because like I'm passionate about it. So what I really hope people take away from it is that I'm excited about it. I'm expressing my real inner true self with it, and it's me. The music is me. I am the music. So I
Right. And
think
what are you hoping that like they take away from it then?
I guess I'm hoping they just kind of maybe can find some piece of it to relate to, even if it's you know obscured in some way by some bizarre metaphor that I've come up with. At least hoping that they can hear the emotion behind it and go, I've been that happy, I've
Mm,
been that sad, I've been that angry, and the dude singing the song sounds like he is whatever he's saying he is. And the chords and the melodies and the screaming and the beats all reflect that. And also, I hope people just enjoy it. Like I work
yeah.
really hard on it. I hope they just go, hey, other than it being very emotional, this is just good music.
Fuck yeah. That's the best part about music, I think. You
And I
put it
think
on and it's just like perfect when it's there, right? Like,
yeah, and again, like with this Arson on Lowry Drive song, it's super angry, not gonna lie, but it's super fun. It's so fun. It's such a fun song. It's just like hey, I used to listen to these heavy bands, and I'm just gonna try and make a fun song that sounds like these heavy bands, and just do the things that they did in their songs just for fun, just because it's something to do. And
yeah.
I think everybody gets so like precious about their music. And don't get me wrong, man, I'm precious about my music, but sometimes you got to throw it away a little bit. Sometimes you got to be like, you know what?
Just have a little fun,
Just have fun, man. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun. So I hope people have fun listening to Breaking the Undertow as well.
That's the one takeaway, that you should have fun if you're going to listen to it. There you go.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so you've mentioned already the project you're working on. Do you have like future plans of like? Because I know you're in like a transitional stage right now where you're like leaving that DSP thing and shifting things, right? There's no website right now. That'll eventually come, right? But
Yeah.
like, do you have any other plans other than that single that you're working on right now?
Yeah, so that single is done, and my wife Laura, who's like I've said, does all the
Right, it's
artwork.
going to that next stage of like conceptualization of like the visuals and all that stuff now that you have the track, right?
Yeah, so she's putting together the artwork, and she's got a really cool concept, um, and I think it's going to be awesome. And then I'm working on like a really soft song right now about again something
Oh yes.
very very personal. I don't even think I should say the title right now. I don't.
No, don't tell him yet.
I think I'm gonna wait. It's a weird title, and I wanna roll the song out gently because it's a bit of a it's interesting. It's interesting. So look out for that after. So I'll be releasing Arson on Lowry Drive. Look out for that one, and then after that one, you can expect like a real weird one from me. Something
Right,
real
you said
weird.
before it was going to be like the hardest song you've ever put out and then the softest song you've ever put out or something, right?
That's exactly. And it's very like what I did with that one is like this new one that I'm not gonna say the title, is like I strum some chords and I reversed them. So there's all this like kind of like reverse guitar
Okay.
going. And then I ran it through this thing that sounds like an organ. It's got like this organ kind of quality. And then there's some very like I don't even know. It's just super vibey, man. It just like kind of
Yeah,
goes like this, you know? And then
yeah.
yeah, I'm excited about it. And it's a very personal song. And then I'm writing another one that I actually just started writing last night. And I think it's
Nice.
gonna be really cool. It's just a banger. It's just gonna be like a straight rock song. And it's not gonna be too heavy, it's not gonna be too soft, it's just gonna be distorted guitars, melody, bam. So I'm excited
Okay.
about that too.
So there's like
So
way more in the works yet.
I want it to be at least 3 songs this year. Hopefully, gonna do 4. We'll see. We'll
Nice.
see.
And we haven't even heard about that yet. You're going to just have to follow along to find out about the next ones.
Follow along. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube.
Yeah, so like we
Um,
have the link tree, I believe, below the video here as like the master link, all the different things right there, right? Because you don't have the website right now. Everything's kind of moving over. But yeah, you can find everything on the link tree, I think, right?
Yeah, so all my social media links and all the the big 3 streaming platforms, Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube are all on there, and then you can just go explore the catalog if you want to go, listen to my music and the stuff you heard today on the show. A lot more melodic, but if you like more, kind of heavy stuff, I have some of that too. If you like weird time signatures, I have some of that too. Whatever you're into, I hope you find something in my music that you enjoy listening to. So
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, I mean that concludes the interview. It's been amazing. Thank you for coming on here today, bro.
dude, thanks for having me on. Sorry about the delayed response. I think you froze there for a sec. So
Oh
I
shit.
really yeah. Dude, it's been a blast, and I really appreciate like I said, what you're doing for artists is amazing. So thank you for having me on. Keep up the amazing work. You're crushing it with this show. I'm super impressed, and it was also just great to see you again, man. I haven't seen you in a while,
Yeah,
so
right.
it's been awesome. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I saw you last like what? It was on my surprise birthday party or something like that when I turned
yeah.
30,
It
right?
what?
6 years ago.
Fuck.
That's the last time, bro. So like being able to see you
Wow.
today and just chat and chill for a bit has been epic, bro.
Yeah, it's been awesome, man. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right, well, thanks everybody that's here for coming and watching today and enjoying Breaking the Undertow with me as I've interviewed him. And have a great afternoon, Sunday afternoon. Thanks for coming. Cheers.